All right, today we're going to dive into one of the most incredible chapters in the entire biblical narrative, John chapter 20. We're not just going to read it, we're going to unpack it. We'll look at the very human emotions, the way the story is built, and the events that moment by moment changed everything. So picture this. The story opens in darkness. And I mean that literally and emotionally. It's the first day of the week, it's still dark out, and Mary Magdalene is at the tomb. She's just looking for some kind of closure. But what she finds is the exact opposite. The huge stone that sealed the tomb, it's been rolled away. So the story kicks off, not with an answer, but with a massive, unsettling question mark.
Mary's mind doesn't jump to some big miracle. Nope. It goes to the most logical and, frankly, heartbreaking conclusion she can think of. Somebody stole the body. Her first thought isn't, he's risen. It's, they've taken him. So in a total panic, she just turns and runs to find the head honchos, Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one the text calls the one Jesus loved, to tell them the awful news. And this news, it literally sets off a foot race. Peter and the other disciple just sprint toward the tomb, and their reactions are totally different. The other disciple, he's younger, he's faster, he gets there first, but he stops. He just kind of peers into the dark. But Peter? Oh, Peter gets there second, and with his classic impulsive energy, he just barrels right inside. It's a little detail, but it tells you so much about who these guys are in this moment of crisis.
So what do they see in there? Well, the body's gone, that's for sure. But this doesn't look like a chaotic grave robbery. The burial cloths are just left there, and in a weirdly orderly way. The linen strips are lying by themselves, and the cloth that was around his head is folded up, off to the side. It's a really confusing scene. So the other disciple comes in, he sees all this, and the text says he believed. But, and this is a huge but, it immediately clarifies that they still didn't get the whole scripture part about him having to rise from the dead.
So the two disciples, they're just completely baffled by what they've seen. And they just go home. But Mary, she comes back to the tomb. She can't leave. And it's right here, in this moment of just her, alone with her grief, that the real heart of this story starts to beat. She's weeping, and she looks back into the empty tomb one more time, only it isn't empty anymore. There are two angels in white sitting right where Jesus' body had been, and they ask her this simple, direct question that just cuts right through everything. Woman, why are you crying? And she gives them the same answer she gave the disciples. Someone took her Lord.
So then she turns away from the tomb, and there's someone else standing there. But her vision is so blurred by tears, her mind is so clouded with sorrow, that she doesn't recognize him at all. She just assumes it's the gardener, the guy who takes care of the grounds. This is such a brilliant way to show just how far from her mind the truth really is. Her grief is literally blinding her. Still thinking it's the gardener, she makes this desperate plea. And it just shows her incredible love and devotion. She's not asking for justice or for someone to be punished. She just wants to know where the body is so she can take care of it herself. It's just a moment of pure, raw, determined love. And then he says one word. Mary. And in that single moment, hearing her name in that voice she thought was gone forever, everything changes. It cuts through all the confusion, all the grief. It's not the gardener. It's him. Her entire world just flips on that one sound. She cries out, Rabboni, which is Aramaic. It means teacher, but it's a term of such deep respect and joy. And right after this incredible moment of recognition, Jesus gives her a mission. She is going to be the very first person to spread the news of the resurrection. She has to go tell the others what she's seen and heard.
Okay, so now the scene shifts. It's that very same evening, Mary has told them her unbelievable story, but it hasn't exactly calmed everyone down. The disciples are all huddled together in a room, hiding, doors locked, absolutely terrified that the same people who arrested Jesus are now coming for them.
And into this room that's just filled with fear, a room with locked doors, Jesus just appears. The text makes a point of saying the doors were locked to really drive home that this was impossible. And his very first words to this terrified group, peace be with you. To prove he's not a ghost, he shows them the actual wounds in his hands and his side. And just like that, their fear completely vanishes, and it's replaced by this overwhelming joy. But this isn't just a happy reunion. He immediately gives them their new mission. He breathes on them, which is this powerful, symbolic act, and says he's sending them out into the world, just like the Father sent him. But there's a catch. One of the disciples wasn't there, And this brings us to the final, really powerful story arc in the chapter, the story of Thomas, a man whose name, as you know, would forever be linked with doubt. So when the others finally find Thomas, they're ecstatic. They tell him, "We have seen the Lord." But Thomas, he flat out refuses to believe them. And he sets this really extreme condition. He's not going to take their word for it. He needs hard, physical, undeniable proof. He says, "Unless I can see the nail marks and actually put my finger in them, I will not believe." A whole week goes by. Imagine that. An entire week of Thomas living with his doubt while the others are living with this incredible new reality. Then they're all gathered again, and this time Thomas is with them. And once again, even though the doors are locked, Jesus just appears among them. And Jesus walks straight over to Thomas. He doesn't scold him. He directly addresses his doubt by offering him the exact proof he demanded. He basically repeats Thomas's own words back to him, inviting him to touch the wounds. It's this incredibly personal, direct confrontation with disbelief. And what's Thomas's response? He doesn't even need to touch him. Just seeing Jesus alive and speaking directly to his deepest doubts, it's enough. He makes the most profound statement of faith in the entire book, "My Lord and my God." It is a complete and total surrender of his skepticism. Now, you'd think the story could end on that amazing climax, but it doesn't. The author adds this fascinating little postscript. He kind of steps out from behind the curtain to tell all of us, the readers, exactly why he chose these specific stories to write down. The author makes it really clear that this is not some exhaustive biography. He says, look, Jesus did tons of other amazing things that aren't in this book. And that's a really important detail because it tells us that the stories we just went through, Mary at the tomb, the disciples in the locked room, Thomas and his doubt, they were all handpicked for a very specific reason. And here's that reason laid out plain as day. The purpose is twofold. First, these stories are recorded so that you, the reader, might believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God. And second, that by believing this, you might have what the author calls life in his name. It's a crystal clear mission statement for the whole book. And that brings us to the final thought here. After Thomas makes his amazing declaration, Jesus says something really interesting to him. "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." This story, written for all of us who would never see Jesus physically, ends by lifting up a kind of faith that doesn't need that physical proof. It leaves us all with this lingering question, a question that's at the very heart of the story. What does it truly mean to believe without seeing?